Hello, everyone. This is my first live stream ever on this channel, at least the first one that went public. So, thank you for anyone who's going to join. I'm going to wait a few minutes just to see if anyone hops on in the meantime. But if you're new to this channel, I just want to let you know that what I do here, I kind of look at different religions, I look at different perspectives, and I try to better understand how different people see the world because I think that's very important to us. I think it's important to create a healthy community and healthy livelihood. And I like to look into other religions and other belief systems and stuff like that. So if you are watching this after the stream and it's been posted on YouTube, you can just skip ahead a few minutes and I'll be jumping into the actual content then. But as of now, I'm just going to wait a little bit, see if anyone hops on, and then we'll go from there. So thank you for joining the live stream, and hopefully you guys enjoy it. Now, I did the reason why I'm doing this video as I wait here. The reason why I'm doing this video is because some people were asking me or left some comments on some previous videos to do some reactions or take a look at some different videos out there, and so I got a range of different belief systems and stuff and different videos to check out, and I decided to check out a couple videos about Islam and from my Muslim audience. So I thought I'd give them a check out and give them my reactions, my opinions, my thoughts, and again, doing so, trying to be honest, but at the same time, trying to be respectful, because I think everyone, we should be more respectful to each other and try to actually understand one another. So I think it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to watching some other people's perspectives, watching how other people see the world, and just to compare a little bit of like what I think or what I observe and notice as an outsider to Islam specifically today. So we'll see how this goes. So yeah, we'll wait a few minutes, wait a couple minutes, to see how this goes. But yeah, if everyone's joining on now, or everyone's just starting to hop on, yeah, we're going to be doing some reactions today. I got a couple videos here. We're going to be looking at the Throne of Allah by Merciful Servant, which is a video was suggested in the comments by a few people on some of my past videos. And we're also going to be looking at Scientific Facts in the Quran, Must See, also from Merciful Servant, another one that was suggested by a couple people in the comment section on some of my previous videos. And I think total, they're about, about 20 minutes together. So we'll see how that goes. And again, let me know if in the comments or anything, if how these videos are, if it's sounding good, if the live stream, if there's anything that I can improve upon here, and see how that goes. So yeah, but we're going to be reacting to two videos today and giving my thoughts and stuff. We'll probably actually start doing the reaction and start the video around 12:33, 12:35. If no one shows up, it'll be fine. It'll just be posted up anyway afterwards when I'm done doing this. But again, if anyone's joining in, let me know. Leave a comment below. Leave a shout out, and we'll see how this goes. It's my first time live streaming, so give me a little bit of grace here as I kind of get used to this feeling of knowing I'm live instead of being able to go into edit and post. So yeah, we will start here soon. We'll start here soon in a couple minutes. But let me know if you're in. Let me know in the chat or anything. It looks like I have a chat here, so I can see if anyone's posting anything or stuff like that. So let me know if you're around. Let me know what you're thinking, and we'll see how this goes. But yeah, so wait a few more minutes here. But yeah, so again, thank you to anyone who's joining up, anything who's squatting up. We'll get started here soon. Just getting. I think they're both all here. And again, let me know if there's anything as regards to audio and stuff that can be improved upon and stuff like that. So we will see how this goes. I think we'll get started here in a couple minutes. But yeah, I'm kind of excited. So I'm just gonna give a little bit of my pre thoughts. I guess the pre-game. I'm kind of excited to actually look at these. I did take a little bit of a glance at them, but I didn't watch them all the way through. Just want to make sure there's nothing inappropriate or anything in them. But obviously they seem like they're just videos about the Islam, which is good. So I wanna learn more today. Hopefully I learn more, give you my honest thoughts and opinions, and also just give you kind of an outsider's perspective. And yeah, I'm kind of excited. The Throne of Allah one looks interesting. It's a really popular video apparently, and I just think it's interesting because it looks like it's a bunch of different people from the Muslim faith who are talking, but I didn't see all the way through. So I'm excited to see that one. That's the one I'm really excited about. The scientific facts one I think is going to be interesting. I'm really curious how they're going to say scientific facts are in the Quran. After having read the Quran once, I didn't really think of it as scientific, but I think it's going to be interesting to see what they mean when they say scientific facts in the Quran. This is going to be an interesting experience, to say the least. But yeah, so if you enjoyed what you see here today, if you like this live stream, or if you're watching after the live stream has been posted, again, just leave a like, subscribe, leave a comment below, and tell me more about what you believe and stuff like that. And yeah, we'll see how this goes. But if you enjoy stuff, leave a comment. I plan on making more videos like this. I want to do more live streams in the future. I think it's going to be fun to do this. I'm going to be reviewing different stuff, I think, down the road. So I'm going to do more of this. But today's going to be primarily looking at 2 videos about Islam. And soon time to get started here. So let me just check here. Yep, it's about that. It's about time. I think I'm going to get started. So yeah, if anyone joins up, squads up, we'll see how this goes. I didn't know how many people would show up, but we'll see. We'll see how this goes. But anyway, thank you for watching. Thank you for joining. We're going to get jumping into it right now. So let's just go ahead and do this. The Throne of Allah, Mind-Blowing by Merciful Servant. Let's see how this goes. This is a nice peaceful introduction. You know, I don't know if any of these symbols, if it's like words I don't know or anything like that, so I don't know. But disclaimer: if no possible ways this video will show you anything in the unseen world, viewers understand is very important. Okay, interesting. All right, let's see here.
يا نفس إن لم تظفري لا تنزعي.
Anyone Muslim viewers and subscribers, just let me know. Is that Allah in Arabic? I'm not sure. I would assume.
All the praise is for Allah, who is the author of all existence and the most generous to his creation, while he is also the all-compelling. He is the only one worthy of our worship, having no partners, no associates, no sons, no daughters.
Oh, that's interesting.
No one.
Pause it right there a little bit. That's interesting because clearly, obviously, he's making a reference to Christianity, talking about the Trinity specifically, which I think is interesting because obviously I already knew that Islam or Muslims don't believe in the Trinity. Although I do think sometimes there can be a misconception of what Christians mean when they talk about the Trinity. The Trinity is, according to most Christian thought, is Jesus Christ, God, and the Holy Spirit. And they're not 3 separate gods. They are one God, they're one spirit, but 3 different personhoods or expressions of that one spirit or that one godhood. But yeah, I know sometimes people might think it's Mary and stuff by what I heard, and what I understand, but that's not the case. But I just want to say that just to maybe give a little bit of idea of what we mean when we say Trinity. I don't obviously think it's not really making an argument one way or the other. I'm just saying that's what Christians typically believe when we say Trinity. But I just think that's interesting because they're making a reference right here about Trinity. Although so far, the things that he's applied to Allah, Christians would apply to God as well.
One whom he must consult, and no one or anything which has any comparison with him. All the praise is for Allah, who is the King of all who claim sovereignty, the only one who has the right to legislate for his creatures. He is the giver of life. He is the causer of death, while death has no effect upon him, because he is the ever-living, the self-subsisting, the eternal and the only absolute. All the praise is for Allah, who has power over all things.
Okay, so far it's interesting because, again, the things that he's applying to Allah or the God of the Quran, or however I should word this, I'm not entirely sure. But the things he's applying to Allah are the same things I would, as a Christian, apply to God from the Bible. The fact that he's all-powerful, that he created life, and that he gets to choose when people die and stuff like that. He has all power and he's sovereign. These are things I would also apply to God. So I just think that's interesting right now. But it's really, I like the production value of this video. Now this is not theological or religious, but I like the production value of this video. It looks like it's well made. It looks like it's well thought out, and I just kind of like the vibe of it right now. I think from a production standpoint, it's really well done. But by what I understand, the Merciful Servant is a pretty good channel as far as production goes.
And there is in reality no power and no strength, no influence to cause benefit or detriment except through him. It is he who created this complex world, the seen and the unseen, the evident and the speculative, the earth and all that is on it and everything that is in it. It is he who sent his messengers and prophets, alayhimus salam, with the common message of strict monotheism.
So this is just out of my own curiosity. Leave in the comments below. Why is it that whenever people seem to talk about Muhammad within Islam or within Muslims, when they talk about Muhammad, they seem to always say peace be upon him, or the abbreviation I see is PBUH. Is there what's the reason for this? I'm just out of curiosity. I don't know. So if you're a Muslim or whatever, let me know in the comments down below. I'm really curious why that's a thing. What's the reasoning behind that?
Which simply means
Nice.
Instead of rushing to work for someone else, you're free to freelance from wherever you feel free.
Let's skip that.
that there's absolutely no one worthy of worship, no one worthy of our obedience except the Almighty, the One, the Absolute, and who has no partners.
The earlier messages which changed the world in the area in which the prophets were sent, those messages we know have changed, and even the prophets who brought them, their names are now lost. We just know in general because Allah told us in the Quran, وَلَقَدْ بَعَثْنَا فِي كُلِّ أُمَّةٍ رَسُولًا أَنْ يَعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ وَاجْتَنِبُوا الطَّاغُوتَ. I've sent to every nation a messenger, calling people to worship Allah alone and to avoid the worship of false gods.
Okay, I'm not entirely sure. So that's interesting. So there's this idea that a bunch of messengers went out to across the world. That's interesting. I'm not entirely sure what I see why the Quran verse he pulled out. I'm just kind of curious now what that all implies or what that means. But interesting.
This essential message has been preserved in Islam in a way that it was never preserved before.
Yeah, interesting so far. I'm going to just check in, see if anyone else is pulling in here. We got a few more viewers here. Got a few more people pulling in. Right now we're just reviewing The Throne of Allah by Merciful Servant. So I'm just giving you kind of my reactions as an outsider, as a Christian, and just kind of asking questions. Again, leave comments below. There's a chat, I think, if you want to pop in the chat. I'll see if I can check it. This is my first time live streaming, so show me a little bit of grace as I learn here. But yeah, so far it's very interesting. I'm about 4 minutes in, and I don't know who this guy is. Who is this guy? Someone let me know in the comments or in the chat. Who is this guy?
Not because the message was different, because it was the same message, but because of the fact that there would be no other prophets who would come after Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So therefore that message now had to be protected. It had to be preserved in a way none of the earlier messages.
So Muhammad is the last prophet. That's interesting. So it seems like Muhammad's the last prophet. I guess there's no other prophets that are to come. Is that the case? That's the impression I'm getting right now. That's interesting. Although when it comes to is Muhammad the last prophet before the end of the world? Because I remember reading the Quran about kind of like the end of the world and all that stuff, and there being Judgment Day. So I'm just curious. I guess that Muhammad's the last prophet. Then that's interesting. I did hear that before. Hearing him worded this way. Again, this video, high production value. Actually, I really find
Messages
from that angle.
were preserved.
None of the earlier messages were preserved.
Evidently it is what you say you have come to know 40 years back, and what you call the Big Bang is already mentioned in the book which I read, the glorious Quran. It's mentioned 1400 years ago in Surah Anbiya, chapter number 21, verse number 30, which says, "Avalam yaral lazina kafaru." Do not the unbelievers see أن السماوات والأرض كانت رتقا ففتقناهما, that the heaven and the earth were joined together and we clove them asunder.
Okay.
What you're talking about, the Big Bang,
I try to imagine compressing a
that's-
spring.
Okay, so he's saying that the wording in the Quran when it's talking about the beginning of creation, presumably, since he's talking about the Big Bang and he's referencing it to atheists who would say there is no God, he's saying that there's this Quran verse that talks about these two cloves coming together, something like that. Let me see here.
أن السماوات والأرض كانت رتقا ففتقناهما, that the heaven and the earth were joined together and we clove them asunder. What you're talking about, the Big Bang,
So I'm not an expert when it comes to the Big Bang, but the one thing I think that's interesting about that claim is that there's multiple theories of how the Big Bang worked. There's multiple theories on how the Big Bang would have happened. And there's multiple theories on what caused it and stuff. So I'm just curious if that would be relevant to every scientist or every atheist, depending on how they viewed the Big Bang. Again, I don't know enough about it from a scientific end. I know a few things about it. But I know one thing is that there's multiple theories on how it happened or how it started or what would be required for it. So if the science would update, would that still be in line with what the Quran says or not? I'm not sure. But I do think that's interesting how he's reading into the Quran to imply the Big Bang, which I don't know if there's enough information there to go that far, but that's interesting. It is very interesting.
Try to imagine compressing a spring. I push it
Okay, so this is I guess
closer and closer and closer together, so it's smaller and smaller and smaller. And I've stored a tremendous amount of energy in that spring. And when I let it go, it bursts out. It bursts out. It bursts out.
the creation of the universe, which you came to know 40 years back, is already
I don't know who that guy is, but okay, I guess that's his. I guess he's an atheist. I actually don't know who that is. If you know, let me know. But so I'm assuming he's an atheist, and I'm assuming. Oh, we're gonna get an ad. Anyway, I'm assuming he's an atheist, and that's his way of explaining how the universe started. But again, if you would, I think, talk to different atheists, they would have different ideas on how the Big Bang started. If you talk to even people from other faiths, they would have different ideas how the Big Bang started. But it is interesting how the Quran does correlate to a certain extent with some theories out there.
mentioned in this book, the glorious Quran, 1400 years ago.
Have to skip it.
Who could have mentioned
Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to boast about them. جاءكم أهل اليمن, the people of Yemen is come.
that in the Quran? So the atheists will say, maybe someone wrote, maybe it's a fluke, maybe it's a guesswork.
A human being, regardless of who they are, or where they are, or what they do, will have this curiosity. They'll want to know, why am I here? How did I get here? And do I have a purpose? And if so, what is it? The only one.
Humans, this is the one thing I mean, I will say as someone who is as a Christian who does believe in God, it is always interesting to me the ways people try to get rid of God and answer these questions. And I again, it's just one of those things where I just always find it interesting how we try to give answers to purpose without God, and it's always just interesting to me. But it is true, every human being does ask kind of these questions of like, why am I here? What am I doing? And they try to find the reasons and their justifications for it. Sometimes people will do it with religion, some people will do it with other things. So, yeah, checking in here, see where we're at. Is anyone in anything chat? Nope, nothing in the chat, nothing there. So, cool. All right, so let's keep going on. For anyone who might have just hopped on or just joined, we're going through The Throne of Allah by a Merciful Servant. Let's keep going.
Who would really be able to answer that question would be the Creator himself. If there is a Creator, it would be up to him to tell us why we were created and what he expects from us and what this life is really about.
True. I agree.
Allah has shown the people from the time of Adam until right now, has shown the people what he wants from them. And it's a very simple thing. And that is that worship be for him alone without any partners. In fact, we know this life to be a test from Almighty God. That's why we're born, and that's why we die, because there has to be a beginning and an end for us to be tested on. The next life, after this life, no one will ever die again. A bad person or a good person. Both are brought back, and they continue to live in the next life, either in good shape or not so good shape, depending on how they did on the test. The worship of...
Overall, as like from a Christian perspective, I do agree with that sentiment that God dictates these things, and also that God creates us to worship him, to honor him. and that when we die, good or bad, there is a heaven, there's a hell, there's an afterlife. So I do agree with that sentiment so far. I do think that, I don't know if I would describe it as quite as a test, although I can see where that analogy comes from. I guess I wouldn't necessarily think about it as a test per se. But yeah, I just think, I don't know. I just don't know if I would use that word choice from my perspective, but I can see where that's coming from.
The God of Abraham. That was what was taught by these prophets.
The Lord of the Arsh and Kursi. We're talking about the Lord of the worlds. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. We're talking about the Lord of the entire universe and beyond. The entire universe and beyond. You know, we live in this dunya and we are fascinated with this dunya which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala indeed has created in a beautiful manner. We're fascinated. There are over billions of people which live on this dunya at this moment in time. Over 6 billion people that live on the dunya at this moment in time. This dunya of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is so big that there is space in this dunya for billions and billions and billions or more people. But what is this dunya in comparison to what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created out there?
Oh, interesting.
This dunya is insignificant. This dunya is meaningless to Allah. It means nothing. It is worthless.
Okay.
So worthless, compare it with the sun. The sun is one star. You know more science than me. You'll be able to tell me better. Take this planet Earth and you place it inside the sun and you will be able to place 1.3 million Earths in the sun. 1.3 million Earths in the sun. Allahu Akbar. Allah is the greatest. The sun is one.
That's interesting. I agree from, like, again, the standpoint of, like, the universe is amazing. It's, like, incredible to me that God created the heavens and the earth, that God created all these planets and all these places. It's actually quite insane. And human beings, whether they believe in God or not, acknowledge the beauty of the universe, acknowledge the just incredible fascination of the stars and the universe and creation in general. And in regard to, like, that type of idea, it is amazing. I don't think I would use the word worthless is an interesting word choice, because obviously human beings are very important to God. And now, coming from a Christian perspective, we would say we were made in the image of God, meaning we're made to reflect and bring glory to God, and we are in a way responsible for this earth and are supposed to take care of it. So I do think that's interesting from using the word worthless. I don't think I would use that word. Just because the earth is small compared to everything else doesn't mean now it's worthless or insignificant. In many ways, it just actually means that this earth contains one of the most important things to God, which is human beings. Now, I'm not sure how Muslims would necessarily think about extraterrestrial life or life beyond. If you are, again, of the Islamic faith, let me know in the comments, or let me know in chat or something, as far as, like, aliens and extraterrestrial life, what you all think. But yeah, I do think that's interesting, though. It is really cool to me, just looking at the universe, and I've done stargazing before, and it's just really cool. Interesting fact, I want to see the Northern Lights. I think that would be really awesome to see. But yeah, it is amazing, the universe we live in.
One star. There are stars out there which are millions of times bigger than the sun. You tell me this, that you need millions.
I couldn't see if they had Beetlejuice in there, but Beetlejuice I know is one that I learned about that was humongous. And it's like millions and millions and, light years away. I don't know, something like that. But it is really cool how there's some things out there that's so massive that it's just hard to even comprehend how big they are.
Millions and millions of stars to make one galaxy. And then you tell me this, that there are zillions of galaxies out there. Let me tell you on top of this, my friend. After this, whatever you see above, when you raise your head and you look above, whatever you see above, the zillions and zillions and zillions of galaxies, let me tell you, this is everything there is within the first heaven.
The first heaven.
Everything there is within the first heaven, and Allah is the creator of 7 heavens. 7 heavens.
Where is he pulling that from?
And the distance between the first heaven and the second heaven is far.
Is there a Quranic verse or something in the Quran about 7 heavens? I'm just curious for my own understanding, because I can't, honestly, I don't know for sure. So let me know. Is there something about 7 heavens that makes that significant? Because I never really understood, I never heard about this concept of 7 heavens. I did see it on like the thumbnail or something when I had this video pulled up. But yeah, let me know 7 heavens, what that's all about. And again, if anyone's just joining in, right now, we are just going through some reactions to some videos about Islam and stuff. And we are just checking out this video right now, The Throne of Allah by Merciful Servant, and seeing how this all rules.
500 years. You know, the distance that can be covered in 500 years, at what speed? Only Allah knows. Only Allah knows. But it will take 500 years to get from the first heaven to the second heaven. 500 years from the second to the third, third to the fourth, fourth to the fifth, fifth to the sixth, sixth to the seventh. Every time it will take 500 years.
And also, why is it 500 years? I don't know.
After the 7 heavens,
this is a change of pace. This is an interesting transition.
وَسِعَ كُرْسِيُّهُ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. You all read the Ayatul Kursi. You all know the Ayatul Kursi. After this, you have the Kursi of Allah. You have the chair of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You know these 7 heavens that we've just talked about, in comparison to the Kursi of Allah, they're non-existent. They're meaningless.
Okay.
Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has given an example in a hadith, just to give us a little bit of understanding with regards to the 7 heavens in comparison to the Kursi of Allah. Take a ring from your finger, take it off, the small ring that you have, and place it, let's say, in a desert, the Sahara Desert. It's the biggest desert in the world. You know that ring that we take off from our fingers and place it in the Sahara Desert? What comparison is in between the ring and the Sahara Desert?
It's start your business time.
Interesting. Nice legal zoom.
Nothing. Nothing. The 7 heavens is the ring, and the Kursi of Allah is the Sahara Desert. After the Kursi of Allah, you have the Arsh of Allah. وَكَانَ أَرْشُهُ عَلَى الْمَاءِ. You have the Arsh of Allah. Again, Rasulullah has explained, so just so that we can understand.
I don't know where this is from exactly. But I'm trying to conceptualize as an outsider what he's all talking about and referencing to. So there seems to be this idea of the 7 heavens as like this ring, this small ring, by what I understand, and then the desert is the Kursi of Allah. I don't know what that word means. Maybe I can look it up here and see what that means. Let's see, Kursi. The Holy Land, extensive monastery, Kursi, Golan Heights. Maybe Kursi definition. What does Kursi mean? Arabic word for throne. Okay, so it's just giving you an idea of, I guess, comparison of 7 heavens versus like the throne of Allah, which I don't know if that's like a spiritual place or like a physical place. I'm not entirely sure. So interesting. So he's talking about the throne of Allah in comparison to the 7 heavens, which I'm assuming we're living within the universe of the 7 heavens, by what I can best understand from what I'm watching right now. Again, I don't know who this guy is, but I think this is interesting perspective. Interesting.
Take the ring, place it in the desert. This time, the ring is the Kursi and the Arsh is the desert. What is the Kursi in comparison to the Arsh of Allah? Nothing.
Okay.
Then you have angels which carry the Arsh of Allah. Their heads are in the 7th heaven and their feet are in the lowest earth.
That'd be nice.
My friends, then you have the Lord of the Arsh and Kursi. لا تدركه الأبصار ويدرك الأبصار وهو اللطيف الخبير. He is beyond the size of Allah, who Allah is, what Allah is. The greatness of Allah is beyond the comprehension of my little mind.
That is true. Okay, from a Christian perspective, also I would agree with that God is beyond like full on comprehension. He gives us enough of evidence of his existence on this earth. He reveals himself through his character or through different things, and he helps us understand him to the point where we need to understand him. But our actual ability to fully comprehend who God is and his character is beyond us. So I do agree with that sentiment as from an outsider's perspective, that God is like basically beyond full on comprehension. He gives us just enough to know his existence and know about who he is, but not in a way that's actually like we understand him. Which again, from like a perspective of like heaven and stuff, having all eternity to actually get to know God is necessary because he's eternal himself.
This is the being that you and I are messing with.
Slumber or sleep. He's always aware, always awake, and all places, all time, omnipresent. All that's in the heavens and the earth belong to him. Again, I would agree with that from a Christian perspective. Who is there that can intercede with him except by his leave? Okay. I mean, again, a lot of the characteristics are being attributed to Allah. I would attribute to God as well. There's some differences here throughout the video as far as theology goes, but the overall characteristics are very similar. He knows what is before them and what is behind them. This is his creation. Yeah, he knows all things. But they do not comprehend any of his knowledge except what he wills. I would agree for the most part, yeah, I would agree with that saying as well for God, that what he reveals to us, as I said earlier, we understand. We can't really fully comprehend him. Throne of Allah was such a common theme in the like Quran or in the Hadith that it's mentioned a lot here at the end. I just think that's interesting, an interesting idea. I guess throne, like I'm trying to think in the Bible, there's only like a couple places where I can think of where a throne's used to help describe like the place where God is or whatever. Where it talks about heavens is throne and earth is his footstool is like the first thing that comes to mind. But this imagery being used here, I think it gives me an idea of like just this massive kingdom hall where like a God would be dwelling, which obviously the God being eternal and infinite and being like omnipresent stuff, obviously it's just there's nothing that can really contain him. Yep. God does not get tired, does not fatigue. He's most high, the tremendous. It looks like we're coming close to the end here. Okay, so we got the video credits. Let me just see here. Is that anything? Okay, so it's just video credits here at the end. Recited by Alma. Okay, so give you some credits there. All right, so that was an interesting experience. If anyone's just joining on, we just watched the Throne of Allah, and I was just kind of giving my thoughts about it and an overview of it. But yeah, so I think it was something that stuck out to me so far is that from a outside perspective, from a Christian perspective, there's a lot of things actually that I would agree with about God's character. The fact that he's eternal, the fact that he's just, the fact that he's beyond full-on comprehension. The idea that he has whatever he has revealed, he is willed to reveal to us. That he is the God of creation. He governs over life and death, and all these different things. There's all these characteristics that are applied to God. Most of them I agree with and like would agree with from a outside perspective. The only thing, honestly, is that in the beginning there's this little thing about how God doesn't have a son. Obviously, a reference to Jesus in Christianity, and some of the theological stuff. A little bit of the details I don't necessarily agree with, or I would differ on. But it is interesting how much overlap there is as far as the attributes I would apply to God are the same as the attributes that are being applied to God in this video. But from a production standpoint, this video was really actually pretty well done. There was a couple of transitions where I thought it was a little bit abrupt, but the transitions were really the music and stuff was really well done. The transitions, the imagery, most of it was actually pretty high production value. I actually kind of appreciated it from that standpoint. But okay, interesting. So that's the Throne of Allah by Merciful Servant. Now we're going to do one more quicker one here. This one I think is going to be intriguing. So scientific facts in the Quran, must see. I like the clickbait there. It has about 800,000 views. Again, this is by Merciful Servant. Same thing, same one who made the last one. And yeah, so again, for anyone who's watching right now, anyone who's going to be watching this down the road after it gets published, thank you for joining. Thank you for coming with us. Leave a comment down below. Leave a like if you like this, and subscribe if you want to join the community and see more stuff like this. I want to do more live streams in the future, and this is kind of my first time doing it, so we're seeing how this goes right now. Now let's see how the scientific facts in the Quran. Let's see what this video has to offer and see what I think. Okay. Digital Bimbard, your source.
The Quran is not a book of science, but a book of science. Yet it contains undeniable facts related to science. There is an incident described in the Quran over 1400 years ago about a man called Abu Jahl, who was not only an enemy of the Muslims during the time of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, but also a well-known pathological liar, compulsive liar. So Allah, God, sent down the revelation describing the actions of this man. Does he not know that Allah sees? No. If he does not desist, we will surely drag him by the forelock, a lying, sinning forelock. Okay. Here in these few verses, Allah specifically points out that the forelock, the front area of the head, is a lying and sinning region.
Wait, I want to go back.
Describing the actions of this man. Does he not desist? We will show this man. Does he not know that Allah sees? No.
So I'm assuming he is that guy, the compulsive liar guy. Alright.
Oh, if he does not desist, we will surely drag him by the forelock.
By the forelock. Now it looks like it continues on here. I'm not sure what he cut out or what is cut out, but okay.
A lying, sinning forelock.
Okay, so then it describes it as a lying, sinning forelock. Okay. Now I don't know what is in between here. Quran 96, 14 through 16. Let me pull out my Quran and actually see what that says. I'm curious. 96. Let's see if I can find it here. Alright, so we have 96. Alright, so we have Surah 96, 14 through 16. Let me see what it full says. So, knoweth he not that Allah doeth see? Let him be aware. If he will desist not, we will drag him by the forelock, a lying, sinful forelock. Okay, so he didn't really cut out anything. Alright, I was just kind of curious if it looked like he might have cut out something there with the ... Okay, then let him call for help to his counsel. Okay. Alright, so interesting. So it describes it as a lying, sinful forelock, which I can only presume that's going to be significant as we head forward into the scientific facts as of what that all means.
Here in these few verses, Allah specifically points out that the forelock, the front area of the head, is a lying and sinning region. The human brain is not only one of the most important organs in the human body, it is also the most complex. The brain is divided into four major sections known as lobes. The frontal lobe, the occipital lobe, the parietal lobe, and the temporal lobe have different locations and functions that support the response and action.
I am not a brain surgeon, so I cannot verify if what he's saying right now is true or not, but I guess I'll just take his word for it from here on out, because I am not a scientist.
Of the human body. Here is a breakdown of each of the four lobes and some of the functions they have. The occipital lobe receives visual information, interprets color, shape and distance.
Okay.
The temporal lobe is responsible for memory and new learning, receives auditory messages, understands spoken language and rhythm, controls how things are ordered and categorized, some visual perception. The parietal lobe, responsible for visual attention, touch perception, monitors sensation and body, position, control reading, face recognition, understanding time, goal direction, voluntary movements and manipulation of objects. And then there's the frontal lobe, which is responsible for conscious thoughts, concentration, perseverance, judgment, attention span, impulse control, which is self-monitoring.
And again, production value of this video is actually really, really good. I don't know who did the animations for it. I'm not sure who did that. But whoever did, like, this production value is actually really good. I'm still impressed with the production value of Merciful Servant.
Brain and supervision, problem solving, organization, critical thinking, forward thinking, ability to feel and express emotion, empathy, memory for habitats and motor activities. The frontal lobe has many functions, most which center on regulating social behavior. The function of the frontal lobe involves the ability to recognize future consequences resulting from current actions, the choice between good and bad actions, or better and best, the override and suppression of socially unacceptable responses, and the determination of similarities and differences between.
Basically, by what I did take a little bit of, I think it was in high school when we talked about the brain. The frontal lobe basically is what you would call your conscious mind. When you're consciously thinking, consciously processing things, your frontal lobe is normally what's being engaged. So the frontal lobe is pretty much your override system. Like, it's what consciously thinks, and then when you want to go make a conscious decision, it's the frontal lobe that will be engaging. It'll like override or tell your brain to do something else, or send signals to your nervous system. So basically, your frontal lobe is the consciousness.
Things or events. When someone lies, brain cells in the prefrontal cortex, the planning executive of the brain, works harder than when we tell the truth. Pathological liars have shown to have more white wiring matter and less grey matter in the prefrontal cortex of the brain than other people. Over the last decade, scientists have used functional magnetic resonance imaging, fMRI, to more accurately locate regions of the brain that changes when a person lies. This technique measures changes in blood flow in the brain.
How exactly do they test this? I mean, I know you kind of talk about the MRI and stuff here, but do they get them to say things that just aren't true? Or do they ask them questions tell them lie to us when you answer the question? Which, again, it wouldn't be that shocking to consider that when you ask someone to lie, that their frontal lobe will be engaged more, because they're literally processing how to say something that's convincing but yet not true. Unlike the truth, which would be something that's subconsciously there, or you would just know off the top of your head, and it would require very little thinking. So from a common sense level, this actually makes a lot of sense that when someone lies, that their frontal lobes can be engaged more because they have to consciously think about a good lie. And that's why you'll see more activity in the frontal lobe if someone's trying to lie versus telling the truth, because it takes less time to think and process.
Reflection of neural activity while people answer questions while inside a scanner. The resulting images pinpoints brain activity in a specific region during the lie and truth phases of the deception paradigms. Although several brain areas appear to play a role in deception.
And again, another dangerous thing when it comes to talking about the scientific end of the brain is the brain, kind of like the universe in that last video, is still very, very, like, we know a little bit about it. We know enough to be dangerous, but there's still a lot we do not know about the brain, and a lot we don't know about the mind and consciousness. So again, if the science changes and it steps out of line with the Quran, like, how does that go? Because science does kind of progress. It's always kind of dangerous when you put your religious, you really bank on something scientific to support something religious, because science can change and evolve as more research is done. Not saying it shouldn't be used at all. I think it should be for any religion to look at science. It's always important to look at science, but always be aware that science is kind of evolving. So it may not always be quite in line with Bible or Quran or whatever as things evolve, as we would perceive it or as we would understand it. And sometimes it's important to also understand, I think, when it comes to religious books and stuff, imagery and stuff like that. It's not everything has to be taken 100% literal. But
the most consistent findings across multiple fMRI studies is that the activity in the prefrontal cortex increases when people lie. The prefrontal cortex, situated just behind the forehead, is a collection of regions responsible for executive control, the ability to regulate thoughts or actions to achieve goals. Executive control includes cognitive processes such as planning, problem solving, and attention, all important components of deception. Dishonesty requires the brain to work harder than honesty, and this effort is reflected by increased brain activities. Let's take a closer look at the prefrontal cortex subdivisions. This area of the brain has been divided into three main subdivisions, known as the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, orbitofrontal cortex, and the ventrolateral prefrontal cortex. In recent years, neuroscientists, criminologists, forensic psychiatrists from around the world have carried out a number of studies on the human brain. In particular, interest of the criminologists and forensic psychiatrists has been the prefrontal cortex subdivisions, in which regions some have described in which wicked behavior takes place. The The frontal cortex is an area of the brain which plays much of the final decision making when doing crimes, such as murders, serial killers, rapists, robbers, etc. The front lower part of the brain, called the orbitofrontal cortex, is an area which is involved in moral decision making, in figure out what's right versus what's wrong. They have noticed a similar pattern in the brain scans of criminals in this region. Studies are still ongoing and more information is slowly being revealed, but one thing is very clear, and that is the prefrontal cortex is where lying and sinning takes place.
I'm curious if this is an actual scan or if this is some sort of animation that's supposed to reflect a scan. Not entirely sure, but it's pretty colors. So far, the information, he's basically what I'm getting is he's going a little bit more in detail with the frontal cortex, but essentially he's repeating what he said earlier, that the frontal cortex is the decision-making and overriding system in the conscious brain. And he's just going into a little bit more detail and kind of breaking it down from point. But he's also just directly applying it now to crime and to lying. So he's just taking the overall consensus of what the frontal lobe does and applying it to a specific situation.
Does he not know that Allah sees? No. If he does not desist, we will surely drag him by the forelock, a lying, sinning forelock. Please don't forget to like us and share.
So that is his conclusion. That's supposed to be the scientific fact in the Quran. Interesting. Now, I do think that's interesting. I do think that's interesting wording. I will say, from an outsider's perspective, I don't find that like extremely compelling. Like, wow, mainly because there would have, I think, been enough. I could be wrong about this, so you can correct me about this. But I think there might have been some sort of knowledge or understanding that the head is where thinking's done. Maybe I'm wrong. I know in some cultures they used to think the heart is where the thinking was done. But there was, I think at that point, it was like probably 600 AD when the Quran, around the time when the Quran was written. And I think at that time they had an understanding that the head is where a lot of thinking was done, or the head played a big part in brain activity. And so therefore, the idea that it would be a lying forelock could also just be the fact that it's the head. Now, I mean, I don't find that overly convincing. And also it could have been imagery, or it could have been some sort of language, more interesting language, rather than saying I pulled him by the hair of his head, pulled him by his lying sinful forelock, because again, in reference to that's where the head is. So I don't know if I would find that overly compelling, although it is just interesting how there is a correlation there. But yeah, so these videos are interesting. They definitely intrigued me here. And we actually have a comment here. So Dr. I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name. Thanks for reacting. Yes, you are welcome. I did see some comments and some people telling me that I should react to some videos and wanted me to check this stuff out. And when this gets posted after the live stream's done, it gets posted. You can watch anything you might have missed. But yes, you are welcome. You are welcome. I enjoy doing this, actually. I'll see if I can do more live streams in the future. Saturdays is normally when I'm available because I work a full-time job during the week. But yeah, I did think the videos were interesting. I did think they were good production value and well done. And I do think I learned something today. And took something away. But yeah, so that's just kind of my reaction, kind of my thoughts on it from outsider's perspective. And yeah, this was a good time. I had a good time doing this. So let me know in the comments. Let me know in the future what you would like me to see or react to, or maybe do some more live videos down the road. But yeah, so thank you for everyone who joined. I'll be posting this on my channel at some point, and you can watch the whole thing then and see what I said and see all the reaction stuff from there. But yeah, thank you for everyone who joined. Thank you for people who left these comments here in the chat. I appreciate you guys. And if you enjoy what you saw and you're new to the channel, definitely subscribe, leave a like, share it with your friends and family. Share this channel with your friends and family. I would like this to grow. And I would like to, at one time, not have to work a full-time job so I can dedicate more time to research and making better content for you guys. But thank you for all who joined. Thank you for that. And guys, as I always say, no matter where you're from or who you are, your background or whatever, try your best to go out there and light the world. Thank you guys, and have a great day.